My name is Saldivar, and I manage our Foodservice Technology Center, where we'll end up after 1 o'clock, so you guys can see the equipment and taste some pretty good food. So stay hungry, and we'll have about 1:20, 1:15. We'll walk over as a group over to the Foodservice Technology Center. Welcome to the center. This is our Energy Cajun Center down here in Irwindale. We also have a sister facility up in Tulare. Some of the housekeeping right through the double doors to the left, and a quick right is the bathrooms. There's a set of bathrooms right there. If there was for emergency, for an earthquake, we'll duck and cover, and we'll go through the front door and walk out as team. For those that were registered, please, when you get a chance, walk out and sign through the iPad. If you guys are walk-ins or if you're the vendors, please still sign the sheet, because if there is emergency, we have to do roll call out there with our responders. Please silence your cell phones. If you guys got to take a call, you guys go right outside and take a phone call. We have 4 customer speakers, and we have 3 speakers from the factory. So we have a good lineup. Hopefully people will trickle in after finding a parking out there. How many first timers here at the center? Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, and we'll start to say a thank you to our vendors out of here. So we have a couple internal Edison groups. We have Lead, which is right in the corner right here. And then we have our Edison Customer Outreach and Business Solutions team right here as well. And then we have 2 external groups that one, we work with Fiber with Helene and her team. And they have a big event coming May 30th, and she has some raffle tickets to give out free, 2 free passes to it. So that forum will actually be here on May 30th. And you can see Helene in the booth for more information. And then we have the Chamber of Commerce from Arcadia, and we welcome you. So I hope this is a lot of information, knowledge to hear from the customers and the factories, and to take back to your guys' restaurants in your city, and also Lead and Fiber, just to spread the word. Our main objective is education and through all this, and some great eating, right? So again, I'll start with mine and go over a couple details. Again, what's my name? My name is Saldivar. I'm a engineer. I'm not a chef or anything to do with that. I've been with the food service the last 15 to 20 years on the gas side and now the electric side, so I know kind of both. A couple things I wanted to go through today is you are attending one of the food service statewide seminars, and today is our first one of the series of ethnic. So we started with obviously the Mexican and the Latino section. And so this is a new for the whole statewide team. We've been doing this since 2005. So this is kind of a new seminar. We kind of wanted to focus on that type of menu and things like that. And Will with the gas company just walked in. So it's new for us. We wanted to try new things and spice things up, if we would say it. And so we have other ethnic groups that we're going to present over the next couple of years as well. So let us know, give us feedback how it went and how it goes, and then obviously on the food and the speakers. But here's the list of seminars coming up, both here and down, I would say the 605 at the gas company. Our next one is not till August, because we have a busy summer with different things going on, but it's high-speed ovens, and I have a slide on that. So next one is kind of be a technology focus on some high-speed ovens. So that's our seminars, and you guys can take a calendar. So again, welcome, and I'll kick things off, and then I'll turn it over to Bret Thompson with Cantina. If you guys don't have an agenda, there's an agenda on the table. We're going to go to about 11:55, about noon for a break, and then another hour with that, and then we'll walk over. So why we decided with exploring this Mexican fair is, I grew up on gas. My grandma made homemade tortillas on the comal using gas, and with airports and malls and strip malls asking their concepts and the new menu trends to go electric, we started to investigate, how can we educate, and is there alternatives for these concepts and these chains to look into electric. And so we started off with some cooktop or ranges, because that's a very huge common piece of equipment in and especially in a Latin or Mexican with the menu. As you see, there's a hot top and a hot open element and an induction. So we're going to focus a lot on induction today and other things. But how it works, it creates an electromagnetic field, and you guys are going to see this live in demo. But what I wanted to show is the pots and pans. You had to buy a special pot and pan years ago, and now this stuff is coming universal, right? So you can buy a set of 9 pans on Amazon like I did about a year ago, and it was universal. And then talking to the equipment guys at the last NAFM show and even the NRA, I'm like, tortillas. If you guys can't cook tortillas on induction, induction's not gonna go in this menu. So what did I do? I went on Amazon and I bought 3 comals, and they're all induction ready. So they have a symbol here. It's telling me that you can use on an electric element, a gas, a glass, infrared, an induction, and an oven and a campfire. So they're very universal. So we're gonna see some tortillas off of this later on and see how well they come out, okay? So it's becoming universal now, and the pans, you basically don't really have to really search. You just go out and buy the normal pan or normal stock pot and like that, and most of them is already universal use. So this is pretty cool. A lot of them have all the different icons on there. So we'll see some of this live. On this, the food gets hot, and then the source, whether it's the comal, the stock pot, or the pan. So be careful as you guys see this later on, and they might ask you to touch and feel and things like that. The pot, the comal, that's gonna get hot. So I'm warning you now, some of the other stuff like that. People always touch the pan. Well, yeah, that's where all the energy went. So be careful when you guys start to demonstrate. The benefits of induction, it's just fast, flexible, modular, controllable, safer, easy to clean, low ambient heat. Again, easy to clean, cooler kitchens, things like that. And it's coming in all shapes and sizes. A lot of it started with front of the house, as you see in here, with soup wells and single burner hobs is what we call. Now there's drop-in technology. If you've recently been into any of the hotels or buffets and you're getting that hot breakfast, that's what they're serving them on now. So it's really being spread out and different. Here's some more pictures of it and some of the I would say the bullet points on what makes it beneficial. Dry wells, you can go from a wet well to a dry well with no plumbing necessary, especially on a new concept, so you're not plumbing things in anymore. You're using a dry well, keeping that temperature precise. Less heat to the space, and it's pretty safe. Here's an ET study we did with one of the local chains going from a wet well to a dry well. So not only did they save on water savings, but on the new stores, on the new concepts, they're saving on plumbing. Now they're focusing on back house of equipment, and you'll see some of that today. So they are getting into the heavy, what we call some of the heavy duty stuff. Here's just a comparison. People always ask me, and we'll always get that question: which one's cheaper? Which one's and we're here to say what's best for the customer. But we can always do comparisons. We can always do side by side preheats, cookings, and stuff like this. And so we actually did one with our team up in Frontier, and it's kind of a wash, as you can see. And again, it always depends on how you use it, how much you leave it on, and all. So behavioral, for those that run restaurants, your employees, I know they're not the most efficient employees, right? They leave things on, they turn things super high and things like that. So in an ideal situation, a perfect trained employee, a perfect operation, it's kind of a wash on operating these things. For a griddle, there's a plancha that you'll see. They have induction griddles, and there's induction planchas that you'll see out there as well. Stock pot, we all walk into there and we see people over the stock pots, stirring beans or stirring soup and things like that. So you'll see some of that as well today. And then the big thing is wok. I know we have a particular chain in Southern California, right next to our Rosemead headquarters, that's looking into this. And again, because of the airports and because of the malls that are requiring electric, is there options on this? And so we're trying to help and educate and work with the factories to say there is options and there's alternatives to the electric side, and you guys can succeed in the malls and the airports and things like that that are requiring you to go electric. So there's some of the suites. And you know, you, if you really look at the pictures, you can identify who's in what and who's doing what. And so here's some of the options that some of them have looked into already. Here's another one on the back of the house. And then there's a couple of full suites. So just wanted to talk about fryers, whether you're gas or electric, because it's a fryer. It might look the same, but they're not going to perform the same. And here's an example. So whether this is a gas or electric and you're using a standard fryer, you're going to have a cook time about 3 minutes, and you're going to have a recovery time for about close to a minute. So what does that mean? I'm going to drop in a batch of fries, 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds, and it's going to take me about 3 minutes to cook. But before it gets back to 350, it's going to take about almost a minute, right? Before I can drop my next batch. And if I have a special on fries, or I'm a chain that's using a lot of fries and I got a big lunch rush order, I got to be able to get that product out. And so using an efficient fry, and you'll see one today, and I have Stacy with Vulcan be talking to it. It not only it reduces your cook time, so we went from 3 minutes to about 2.5, but then the recovery time, I'm able to drop that fries right when, I come in and order 3 more fries for my family and be able to recover. So those are some of the things that it's education, trial, things like that. And the utility supported with rebates, again, on electric and gas. The gas rebate $750, on electric is $650. We do support the Energy Star program with all of our factories out there. And this is kind of what the qualified list will look like. So you can look at your manufacturer, you can look at the actual model number, how many vats. Some of these wing places, they use 4 to 6 vats, right? And that's all they do is fry, right? There's another chain that just came out with chicken strips, and it's just fryers, batch of fryers and things like that. So we try to educate them, bring them into the centers here, and just let them know, if you're looking at recovery time, you're looking at different things, at capacity, production capacity, we can show you the numbers. And then we obviously are backing it up by a rebate. So that's a typical, what the qualified list will look like. And I'll get into that more. And that looks like this right here, this rebate sheet. So you can see back there what products we offer rebates on, and that's steamers, that's ovens, which is convection and combi, obviously fryers, holding cabinets, rack ovens and conveyor ovens on the gas side, and then on the cold side we got refrigerators and freezers, both glass door and solid, and then ice machines, and some we got electric deck ovens and some, as I mentioned, instant holding cabinets. So electric cooking. This is a seminar coming up in August. Stacy with Cooktek and Turbo Chef just flew back down. Our partner up for Tier just had the seminar last week. And so again, these seminars will rotate throughout the state. And this particularly is focusing on the small combis and the rapid cook ovens. And again, why? It's fast, it's small, it's flexible. Usually they don't require a hood, and that's another thing. Right now, California's kind of rule of thumb is 2 appliances are allowed unhooded, so that's a big advantage. Here's some of the mini combis, or what we're calling them, and then some of the rapid cook ovens that you see. So again, August 27th, we're going to have a full seminar focus on this, and we'll probably have 4 or 5 of the factories out here demonstrating their equipment. This is an example. Everybody loves pizza. How fast do you want your pizza, right? Do you have time to sit down and enjoy it, or do you want to grab and go and get on the road? In California, I think we're all in a rush, right? We experienced the traffic this morning. It's just in California. I don't know why we're going to the same place. Sometimes I'm excited to get there, and sometimes I'm not. And so, whether it's morning or night. So again, rapid cook, grab and go, those terms that you're hearing, a lot of the convenience stores, a lot of the gas stations are grabbing this, right? They don't want you just to get gas. They want you to feed you now, right? And so there's some new concepts coming out there that you'll see at your local gas stations that are going to be serving a lot of food. And they're going to start to use this type of technology. And then how can we help you? So here's our new California Energy Wise, and that's californiawise.com. And provides everything. Provides our contact numbers for the 4 centers. Good news is LAWP has been on the program now for about a year and a half, and we're working with other utilities to get on as well. It provides rebates, it provides the calendar of classes, it provides design guides, it provides a list of qualified rebates, as I mentioned. And that page kind of looks like this. So you just go on there, you click your logo to your local utility, and that list comes up. And then you can hit the different tabs. If I'm looking at ovens or I'm looking at refrigerators and things like that, and that list will pop up and showing all the makes and models. But we're here to serve you guys. It's part of your bill. It's part of our customer service, and a lot of the end users and customers do not know that. So, education and with LEED and fiber and Arcadia, just let them know that we're here. The utilities are there on their side, and we want them to stay successful in California, and we want them to expand in California. And so we're here to help. It's part of their bill. A lot of people don't realize that. And so part of it is we offer, but part of it is we offer is these free utility, free audits. So we can come in and look at everything. I mean, gas, water, electric. We can look at lighting. We can look at air conditioning. We can look at the sanitation, the dish room and stuff like that, and put a comprehensive audit report together for them. And again, it's free at no charge. I know some of them are very busy, so we'll come in. I've done audits at 2 in the morning. I've done audits at 5 in the morning. We want to make it less stressful for the customer to come in at any time. So if you guys can relay that to your customers and your businesses that are in your area, let them know that we're here to help. The other thing is we have a try before you buy at Will's Center off the 605 and our center across the street, which you'll see. They can come in and try the equipment. It's like what I tell them, I'm going to Best Buy and I'm looking at TVs and I'm looking at, manufacturer A and B and C, and I want to turn the volume up and see the pictures. It's the exact same thing. I can bring in 3 or 4 fryers. I can bring in 3 or 4 ovens. We encourage you to bring their product, right? Because they know how the product comes out and tastes good again. And we have a saying, even when I was at the gas company, it's the RC or the FTC, you're gonna gain 20 pounds working in this lab, because the companies and the factories and other, and we just run tests all day long, and it's different food, and it's great to test all these different ethic menus and concepts and recipes. So we encourage you guys to spread the word, and our test labs, our kitchens, or whatever you want to call it, they're available to your customers. And again, they can stay for an hour, they can stay for a week, whatever they need to get, to really come out comfortable, okay? And one thing we've really launched is we know that Irwindale is not the most central location, okay? And so we've offered, this just went live like 2 weeks ago. So we're talking about induction, and now you're able to take one home. And today, if you really want to take one home today with the pot and pan, Gwen has the release of liability, and we'll need a copy of your driver's license. And then if you don't know your Edison count number, we'll call the 800 number and try to get it for you. So if you really want to take one home today and you want to take a pot or a pan or both, see Gwen. Have Gwen raise your hand. We'll have you fill out the proper documentation. So this is building on our tool lending program. We have a lot of tools out there that we lend. So we have like infrared cameras, a lot of logging equipment, stuff like this. And now we're trying to expand into food service. The gas company did this with what we call the turbo pot. They just went out there and started to lend them and things like this. So we're trying to get into your guys' hands, and so you guys can play with them and things like that. You could use it as a residential, or you can use it as commercial. All right, so take that. The flyer looks like this, and then again, if you really want to go home with it today, Gwen will have the proper paperwork, and you can see here. And so some of the other counties like SMUD and Sonoma County have done this already, and they're having great feedback from, it's really education and letting the customers and our people get their hands on it, and really trying to And so I'm going to wrap up with that. Here's my contact information so we can kind of stay on track here. And we're kind of running behind a little bit. But Our next speaker is Bret Thompson. He's the founder and executive chef for Pez Cantina. Recently met him at a California restaurant station. So we're trying to network. We're using CRA, we're using Fiber, we're trying to use everybody out there. The restaurant business, the food service business is continuing to grow in California. It's not going anywhere. There's new concepts, there's new menus coming out. And we just want to be a part of it and supporting it and help them be successful. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bret.
Thanks for being here. So I met Andre and Gwen at our restaurant. We hosted the last CRA mixer there, and they asked me to come up and speak today about electrical equipment and kind of give some also our story and where what we're doing and so. Basically, my wife and I, Lucy, we own Pez Cantina restaurant. It's in downtown Los Angeles on Bunker Hill. Anyone ever been there before? All right, cool. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for coming in. So we specialize in mariscos. Like basically, our restaurant is kind of inspired from all of our fishing trips to Laredo and Baja California, and basically we got very inspired fishing down there and diving and making fish tacos and just that very easy laid-back life down there. And we decided, hey, look, we're going to do a fish taco joint. And never thought it would be a 175-seat restaurant on Bunker Hill, but we're very happy we did that. Prior to that, I also own a place called Milk. It's an ice cream parlor in Hollywood on Beverly. And I had left the Patina group where I was doing, fine dining cuisine for a long time, and really wanted to do something just a little more laid back, not so uptight. And I think opening up Milk was a perfect time in 2007, right when the recession was really hitting. And believe it or not, we actually did really, really well because I think people still needed to kind of have that experience, but didn't want to spend the money. And then had the hankering to get back into the fine dining business. And So, as I said, we were inspired from all of our trips to Baja California, and we opened up Pez Cantina. We've been open now for 4.5 years. It's been a great trip. We love the area. If you guys know it up there, it continues to grow and grow. And downtown Los Angeles is amazing how it's just so much growth down there. And I encourage anyone who wants to open a restaurant down there to do it. I have a friend, an Indian friend who's looking to open a restaurant, and I just connected him downtown with a broker, and they're going to be doing really great down there. I mean, there's so much opportunity. And so, besides that, right now we're working on a new project called Sopa, and it's kind of like a modern soup kitchen. It's going to be, our first location is going to be in downtown Los Angeles. Good thing is what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working and basically producing everything at our current restaurant and then bringing it over to the new location, which is very close. Can't really say yet where it is, but it's very close to the restaurant. And that kind of leads me, I guess, to why electrical stuff, equipment might really work for us because we don't want to spend the money. It's basically about 1,000 square foot space. I don't want to spend the money for a hood. I don't want to spend the money for the exhaust, all the stuff that goes into working with gas. And since we are doing everything off-site, it will be easy enough just to bring everything over there and be able to use like a combi oven or simple, smaller pieces of equipment that are not going to put out a bunch of grease and exhaust. And to be honest with you, I think, I'm pretty old school in my training. I've been cooking since like 1989, and I spent a good 12 years with the Patina group. And a couple of those years went to Europe and spent some time in France and Spain and just cooking around, and so really had that classic old school training. And for me, I never saw a piece of electrical equipment when I was over there. Like there are no electric stoves and conduction stoves and that kind of stuff. Now there probably is. Now I'm sure there are like cool combi ovens and that kind of stuff. But so for me, making the transition to from gas to electric was sort of like just new and a change. But once I started doing it, and there's just so many benefits. It's so much easier to clean these pieces of equipment. It's very easy to travel with these pieces of equipment. For example, We do lots of different events throughout the year. Taqueando. We just did the Masters of Taste at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. We brought pozole to this event. So rather than like lugging this like huge stove that works off gas, we had a tiny little conduction burner that was plug-in, and we were able to heat up 30 gallons of pozole within 4 hours. So it was amazing and just so much easier. And cleaner. And I think what Andre was saying also about recovery time, it's I think as working on gas for such a long time, you kind of get used to that. And I got to be honest, when we'll do catering events at people's houses and stuff who have electric stoves, you're kind of like, oh my God, all these buttons, and you're kind of confused on this. But once you get it, it's so easy. And the recovery time is fast, and it's amazing how fast these things do heat up, using electricity. Sorry, man. I've become a big fan of it. I'm actually going to be cooking some stuff for you guys today. We've got some chicken tinga tostadas with chorizo refried beans and some pickled cabbage on top. And, it's cool and also we're doing some tacos. But, I think one of the things I was always like kind of frustrated with electrical, with conduction, was that we always had to use stainless steel. And I came to find out today that that's changed, and there's a lot of other different mediums you can use. I see there's a comal, which is like an iron plate, which you can heat up tortillas on and stuff like that. So that's really great to see that because it kind of limits it. You get to an event and you tell your prep cook, hey, look, can you pack me a pot for the pozole? And all of a sudden you get there and it's aluminum. You're like, oh man, you can't do anything except go back to the kitchen or go to Smart and Final and buy a pot. So the fact that there's a lot more versatility and flexibility, I think, is a big thing, and that's, I think, huge progress for electric and conduction. And then I also, just listening and talking with Gwen earlier about the audit and matchup rebate. It's really great. The fact that I could actually be here, and I just learned that I can choose any piece of equipment today to take home with me. I'm really happy about that. No, I'm just kidding, Andre. He's like, what? Who told you that? No, but it's great to be able to come here and test the stuff out, and to see how fast is 10 bunches of broccolini going to steam in the steamer. I'm going to find that out today, and you guys are going to be my guinea pig. So, and the fact that you guys, I could have actually Edison come down. We could do an audit on our equipment, see what we're doing, see how we can be more efficient, and actually, come down here to the facility and actually, compare and see, about having a piece of equipment that's much more efficient, faster, and so on. As Andre mentioned, speed is for us it's paramount to everything we do, along with food quality, service, cleanliness, ambiance. We're on Bunker Hill. People want to get in and out of there in minus 10 minutes. I mean, it's like they get there, they're already asking for their check. So for us, it's like we got to be fast in what we're doing. And these kinds of things, it's honestly, it's taken me a second to kind of, make a decision to start kind of changing the equipment in my kitchen. I'm so very used to, convection ovens and, so when I discovered like the combi oven, oh my gosh, this thing can steam, it can bake, and keep things crispy. It's just so multi-use, and it is expensive. I think they run $10,000 to $12,000 to $13,000 to $14,000 depending on what you get. But at the end of the day, it does the same work as a double stack convection oven, and it's compact, it's cleaner, it's just make things a lot easier. So again, I'm a big fan of gas, but I'm really learning to use electric conduction and becoming more and more of a fan of it. And so hopefully that comes out in the flavors that you're going to try today. Andre, how am I looking on time? Good? You're good. Okay. You're going to put us back on schedule. Oh, right on. Okay. I don't want to bore you with a bunch of stuff about, I invite you to come down to the restaurant, Pez Cantina. It's a fantastic restaurant. Again, my wife and I own it. We also are starting just kind of getting a little shout out. We're doing we're starting to manufacture a new product called Pez Powder. And yes, it competes with that 5-letter word, Tajin. And so we're going to take over some of that market. And we've got black, Pez green, and our regular Pez powder. It's like a chili and lime powder. It's exciting. So we're going to be opening. We're actually expanding Pez Cantina and expanding Pez Sopa concept. So we definitely hope to be incorporating some conduction electric equipment in our future. Yeah. So hope to see you guys. If you guys come down to the restaurant, say hi. And I'm going to go back where I belong in the kitchen. I'm going to whip something up for you guys. And so thank you for listening and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bret. Yeah, and he's busy. I think they're all busy, right? Because what do we have on Sunday? So it was kind of like, do we do it on Cinco de Mayo week? Do we don't? It was kind of, and we're happy that we have 4 customers and 3 factories that can join us during their busy week. Probably one of their busiest weeks of all the year. But as Bret mentioned, he's downtown LA, and so that's LEWP, and they've joined our food service rebate program. Unfortunately, they don't have a center, so they use the gas company in our center. But we're grateful that they joined. It's the same rebate, it's the same amount, so the customer doesn't have to kind of guess anything. And it's run by the gas company. So do we do audits? Yes, we do audits down there. We tag team. Sometimes I go out there, sometimes Will's go out there by himself. But again, we're shooting what's best for the customer and trying to keep them in business. We want to keep them successful and keep growing. As he mentioned, he's looking to grow again, and that's what we want to do. And we want to battle New York and Chicago and all those other places that have great restaurants and say, hey, we have them too in California. And the concepts are growing and changing. So thank you again, Bret. And he's going to whip up some food and bring it back here because he's got to head out for a Cinco de Mayo thing as well. But our next one is Gloria's restaurant and bar. And with the executive chair there, Juan Sanjuan, we partnered with him on several events for our Hispanic event in September, which we had in Southgate. And they said, "Oh, do you know anybody?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know somebody in that area that we can have the food there in Southgate," and it worked out. And he's been a great partner with that. So, Juan.
Good morning. How you guys doing? Well, we're from Gloria's Restaurant. We started 36 years ago in Huntington Park, and it's amazing how time flies. I was a little kid and used to love being in the kitchen, and fell in love with it. Fell in love with the whole business, the tradition. For us, more than anything, it's a traditional Mexican restaurant. We do try to stick to our roots and our heritage. My dad started it 36 years ago, and I started working in the kitchen, became a chef, then took over the business side of it. And I remember still the day when he told me, "You're going to be in the front of the house instead of back." It was a big blow, but I understood now. I understand now why he did it. For us, it is about the flavor, the tradition of Mexico. So we started a new concept called Gloria's Pueblito. So it's an extension of Gloria's. We've made some changes that we've seen happen throughout the years. I think that the way we ran things back in the day, it's difficult to keep up, especially with the large menu, the way things are evolving. Every day it just seems like the restaurant industry is really changing and growing. So with our new concept, what we decided to do was limit our proteins, limit our space, limit our inventory. And so for us, that's why this equipment is amazing. We're finding out, or I just found out, that we can do a lot more with a lot less space. So my new concept is about that. It's small, intimate. Compared to 200 something people at Gloria's, we're about 70. Our kitchen is very small. Everything has to be spaced, everything has to be organized. And that's what we believe in. We believe in, that's why I named it Pueblito. What we're doing is small town food. So it's really home style cooking. So even for us, for me, when they told me about having electric, just something didn't register right at the beginning. And it is weird to cook without fire. But that's some pretty amazing equipment. And that's what we're hoping to do, is change things, change our mentality, come into the new equipment, new stuff, and still keep our tradition, still keep our food, our flavors going. And so that's basically what we've been doing. I've been in the kitchen for 36 years now. I started as a 10-year-old dishwasher and moved up till eventually I became the chef there at Gloria's. Now we cater amazing events with Southern California Edison. Liz Belloso, she actually came on board to become my catering and events manager. So now we work together to bring food, and we've done everywhere from San Diego to Los Angeles. We cater great companies like Southern California Edison, Cazadores, amongst other companies, CPK. And that's mainly what we want to do. Our food is, it's all about keeping our traditional flavors. It's a lot about small town food. For us, that's what's important to me, is not forgetting about our traditions, where we came from, and but still yet modernizing. All the new equipment, all the new ways of running your business, yet still keeping your tradition going. Our newest concept, Gloria's Pueblito, that's where we want to expand. We are looking at other locations to grow it. And then my third concept is Ceviche Glorias. So that is one of the newest things that I've done. It's almost a build your own ceviche. So it's almost like a Subway, but for ceviche. And a lot of the cold table that we just saw is amazing. We can keep our hot, cold, if we have any salsas, but it gives you enough space to be able to work and put, like the bowls and stuff on top. So that's an amazing product that I just saw today. We can have hot, cold, hot, even for our taco bar when we do like, Taco Tuesdays and stuff like that. In our line is something that we can use. So what we're learning today is this, how amazing this equipment is. We get to maximize our space. The deep fryer that I just saw is another amazing thing. We don't have to worry about pilots and, all this going on. It's simple. And that's what we're hoping to do. So we're gonna start turning out some food, and let's see if it has the same flavor as the fire, which I'm sure it does. So thank you very much. Once again, my name is Juan Sanjuan, and we're gonna start working on some food, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Right. Am I on? Yes, I'm on. So as Bret and both Juan mentioned, I know Bret can mention a combi, and that's what we're here for. And I know Will came from the combi world, and again, it's really to educate the customers and to show it, so they can save on labor and other things. And when Bret started checking out the combi, like you said, he just didn't realize it can do all that. So it's a universal piece, and you shrink the kitchen, you got more people to feed in the dining room, you get more profit, right? So less back of the house space, you can pull out the same productivity and the same menu, and then you got more seats to fill in the dining room. We're waiting for Nate to walk over from Pepe's, who's really, these next two customers have been really involved with the utilities. They use us for about everything from HVAC to EMS controls to lighting. And so we wanted them to speak on just say the partnership on the utilities, and Nate's one of them coming over from Pepe's. So I know he was going to fry some things as well. But again, I just want to get back to that's where we're here. We're here for the customers. We're here for our restaurateurs and stuff like that. We've had people come and say, "Hey, Andre, I want to open a new restaurant." Well, okay, well, what type of menu? We haven't got there yet. Okay, well, how can we help? We can send you in this direction, that direction. You can try this and try that. And the partnership between the utilities, the 4 utilities, and now the 5 with the LEDP coming on, it's been great because they're hearing the same message, and they're hearing that we're here for them, and the rebates are getting a little bit easier with the point of sale programs. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. As Bret and Juan start to expand, I'm like, hey, who are the dealers you work with? They're like, oh, this dealer and that dealer. Well, hey, I've got good news. If you buy the rebate equipment and you go to those dealers, they're going to give you an instant rebate now. They're going to give you the rebate right off your invoice, and you walk away with hardly any paperwork to do, right? So that's another thing. We're trying to evolve this system, make it easier for our customers, and so they really have liked that. And there's a lot of dealers in downtown LA and outside of the area that they use, and they said, yeah, they're a part of our program. We have Veronica and Rosie was here.
She just stepped out.
Yeah, it's part of our dealer team. Will and Roberto have their dealer team. And again, they're just constantly visiting them and saying what's going on and what's the new concept and we're always trying to launch new programs and new measures. I think July 1st, there's a charbroiler coming out on the gas side, and I think we have some chef bases coming out on the cold side. So stay tuned for that. But again, any, I would say any barriers that you hear from your restaurants or anything like that, let us know about that so we can work on that and keep them successful and keep them growing. So Juan, Nate's here, so I'll turn it over to Nate, and he's from Pepe's, and he can tell you his story and his relationship with us. So, Nate?
My name's Nathan. I have a restaurant in Downey, and it's called Pepe's Restaurant. It's a Mexican fast food restaurant, and so my connection with ERC and here was back in 2012. I had learned there was a place right down the street from our restaurant where you can actually go and use machinery. You can actually test out equipment. And prior to 2012, we were kind of working with Stone Age equipment. We had burners, and it was like really bad on there. Bad meaning where inefficient, inconsistent equipment. So after that first day in 2012, I visited. I tested a couple pieces of equipment out that I thought was going to benefit us, and from there on out, got a couple of I forgot which equipment it was, but I bought one, and then it's kind of trickle-down effect because I just kept buying equipment, and I still hadn't stopped on there. But I think it is beneficial because obviously the efficiency, the quality of the food that comes out, the consistency, is there, and then plus the money savings too on the gas side and the electrical side. So I guess this past 7 years has really been different. Andre didn't really give me any talking points, so I don't really know what else to say. So if you guys want any am I supposed to answer any questions or anything else supposed to talk about? Or?
How you use both centers?
Known Andre for a couple of years now. Tested a couple pieces of equipment. Trying to remember the first time I came here. I think it was 2013, 2014. I think we were going to use it. We wanted to get an oven just dedicated to cook the bacon, because we're deep frying our bacon. We're murdering our bacon on there. Because we don't really serve any plates, or it's all we put in burritos, so the customer doesn't visually see what they're eating on there. So came to Andre, found a little, I forgot the manufacturer's name, but it was a box that just did bacon. And then from there they said, hey, there's this machine that's called a combi unit. It does retherming, cooking, steaming. We'll do your bacon. It's kind of a all-in-one piece of equipment. So I said, sure, I'll look at it. So I went back down to the ERC, looked at theirs, ended up buying one. But then it didn't stop from there, and then you got to buy a RO system, you got to buy a holding cabinet. So it's just kind of one right after the other. But it was money well spent because it just you just see it on the product that you serve every day. So it's, with the food that you make. I know we're considered quick service; it's fast food, but our products have gotten a lot better on there, so more consistent. So, and then right now with Andre, we're looking at the Induction, the Cooktek right now. We're going to switch over. We have a gas steam table. And sometimes I notice if my employees, if they turn the burner maybe a quarter of an inch too high, it really dries out the food in the steam table. Whereas the induction, everything's touch button. It's very precise, and you can't burn your hands. It only heats up the pot. It's more consistent on there. So I know it's going to be pricey, but it's well worth it on there. So, and that's what I kind of look for. So, and that's about it on there.
What percentage of your in your company, what percentage is gas and what percentage is electricity now?
The only piece of equipment right now is that FWE holding cabinet. That's electric. Oh, and then our panini grill on there. But once we switch over, there'll be more electric now once we get that Cooktek in there, that induction. And I'm looking forward to it on that because the labor-wise, with the gas steam table, you have that water bath. Water stinks, gets dirty. They got to clean it. It is kind of gross on there. I hate to use gross and restaurant in the same sentence. It is on there. And then with that induction, it's a lot cleaner. I think it's going to be a lot cleaner. So, but we'll see.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Nate. And so those are kind of the stories that me and Will hear all the time is, hey, it's something that's not doing this, and we try to figure out, okay, well, what's best for you? Being brand neutral and things like that, and just working with them. Going with the gas combi and the bacon, he's just pumping bacon out. I mean, their breakfast burritos are pretty big, and he's satisfied with that, and not butchering his bacon anymore, like he said. So again, we just try to get the customer what they need and what's right for them, and what's. So with that, our next speaker, and then we'll take a break before the factory starts speaking. We're way ahead, which is great because I haven't had breakfast, and the food that they keep talking about is like, okay, it's good. So our next speaker is from Pollo Loco. I think all of us know, and I think they're just feeding the flame or whatever. I think that means. So, but Dan has been a great partner of ours for over the years, and if we're trying to tech and technology, Dan raises his hand. Hey, try my store, use it at my store. Things like that. So, Dan, Director of Facilities, again from Pollo Loco.
What I want to cover really quickly is that I've known Andre for a long time. Most people in the industry have. And he started in a gas company, which we always thought was really funny. So when we talked to him, we said, "You've really gone to the dark side." We weren't kidding. That's how it was with a gas company and Edison or PG&E and everything else. It really was two different worlds before. And I think most restaurants are really happy that all these utilities are working together. And that makes a huge difference because the research centers are very important. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But what I want to cover here is really how Pollo Loco's worked with SCE and Sempra and a few others out there. We've been to CTAC many, many, many times. We've brought equipment in to test. Andre's brought opportunities to us to look at. Would we demo at the stores? Could we do that? And we're always open to it. And Andre wasn't kidding when he says, "Hey, I'd like to test," and before he's done, I'll say, "Yes, we'll test something." Because really, that's the first way to get it into it, see if it's going to change your menu, change your speed of service, change your cost of operation. So at Pollo Loco, almost everybody can remember our older stores. We came in the United States in 1980. Our first store is still in downtown LA on Alvarado. And it doesn't look anything like our newer generations of stores. So as we've gone through, model revamps, our equipment line has done the same thing. We've changed and upgraded efficiencies in how we cook, what process. If you looked at our menu in 1980, we had chickens, rice, and beans and tortillas. And that was it. That's all we had. And we had a lot of hats. We had really big hats back then. And now you look at our menu is extremely diverse. We're bringing different proteins. We never used to do that. It was chicken only. We've done carnitas, we do shrimp, we'll do barbecue, we'll do chili lime, it's LTOs, so limited time offers. You'll see them and those end up earning a place on the menu for long term. So today, like Andre said, don't we have enough challenges? I mean, there was enough challenges to get in here today. So, when I think about as much traffic as we deal with, nobody wants to see something like this coming into work or this going to your restaurant every day. Your displeasure is somebody else's humor. And I think in the restaurant industry, you kind of get used to that after a while. What I want to do is talk about really quickly about some of the different test kitchens that we use. Now, Andre and CTAC, or Food Technology Center, as it's called now for our segment over there, is really important because manufacturers will get the equipment in front of you. As a small independent or even in a small regional chain, sometimes it's hard to get a factory's attention about, hey, we wanted to change this, or could you change it at a different level? I want to change the grates. The grates are too heavy to pick up. We don't like the burner spacing. The burners crack. Our employees get these wet while they're still hot, and things like we've learned over time. So you can come in here and test at these type of locations. We use Edison, Pacific Gas and Electric, San Diego Gas and Electric, Fishnick, which is the test center that's up in San Ramon. It's a great test center as well if you have Northern California locations. Sempra, which is Southern California Gas. ERC, I guess, on Downey Boulevard. We have a store right down the street from it. And even Nevada Power. So if you have anything in Vegas or in Nevada, I should say, northern and south, they're great utilities to be working with as well. So on our 2018 energy use as a chain, we're considered a smaller regional chain. We have about 460 restaurants now between corporate and franchise. And corporate owned, we have about 210 restaurants. But we spend over $10 million a year in energy, just on gas and electric combined for that. So in that chunk of change, our matrix has changed over time. But this is strictly by cost that I'm tracking. And it used to be about 50-50. And the reason it used to be 50-50, if you just go back 10 years, gas was more expensive. And electric was a lot less expensive. And so it just changes. CPI increases, San Onofre, mothballing, just a little bit of everything that happens and the rates change. You look at your mix and how you're using your energy profile in the store changes over time. One thing that's really important for restaurant operators is, do you understand your tariffs? And what I mean by the tariff is, if you're one restaurant and you just opened the account and it was a different building or a different restaurant, you started it, or you built ground up. A lot of times you're not talking to your utility. There might be a couple different tariffs that you can actually look at. And you can talk to Andre, you can talk to your account rep at Edison, you can talk to Edison directly on the commercial side and look at what I qualify for. Do you want to do time of use? Are you having demand charges? How are you going to mitigate that? And you can design equipment around some of the tariff rates as well. One of the things that I want to talk about is specific approaches that we use this center for. So a couple years ago, Captive Air was doing a presentation in here on variable speed. Before that, we had done testing with Malink. And we really liked variable speed hoods, because if you went into our restaurants, and I'll have pictures of our cook line in here, we have a lot of grill space. And it's all natural gas, and it's over 1 million BTUs of heat load in that kitchen. And that means I have to exhaust that type of heat load out of that unit. Our older stores have tremendous size hoods on them. 5 horsepower, dual 5 horsepower motors are not unusual. And guess what? They run the same speed if that grill is empty, if it's completely loaded. If it's Monday morning at 10:30 when we open, or if it's Friday at 7 and we're packed. It doesn't matter to those hoods. That's how they were always designed. And so we looked at, in our case, a Captive Air system was a variable speed system that open up really what we wanted to get into, and it was a quiet, comfortable kitchen. And when we started testing variable speed hoods, it was dramatically different how much more comfortable and quiet the kitchens are. They're hectic as enough. And if you go to our stores, you hear the cleaver drop a chicken all the time. You don't need to hear a fan motor. We have enough, different things that make noise in the store, but the store energy profile really helped. And in the hoods, when you look at the hoods, really they look exactly the same as any other hood. They just have a higher efficiency variable speed motor. And tied in with that is your makeup air also throttles up and throttles down with your exhausters. So You're not going from a negative air situation to a positive air. The doors aren't sucking in at the store. They're not blowing open in the store. But it's very controlled and calm. One of the advantages in here, and you'll see on the area here, on display here, you'll see even on this one, it's reading out how much savings you're getting off of the variable speed. So 17% savings at that particular time is quite a bit of speed reductions, quite a bit of energy savings. And the system does it automatically based on temperature variation. The other thing is that with some of the new technology, they're more complicated to work on. So you have to be aware of that, what you're getting into. Variable speed drives. But this system was wonderful because the rebate was per horsepower motor. So it would pay a fairly substantial rebate to have these installed. So either you can put in your standard efficiency and then pay extra for energy all the rest of that life. And some of these hoods last 20, 25 years. So you're just replacing motors, but the stainless cabinet's there forever. Why not enjoy the energy benefit on the life of your particular equipment? One other thing that we did is that we looked at energy management systems. So as you start growing and you're not in the store all the time at one store, two stores, or three, when you're starting to grow out of LA County, out of the state, all different hours, you're dealing with different utilities, and everything that's hard on a chain, hard in one unique individual restaurant, it's hard to get consistency. And you multiply that by hundreds and hundreds of stores, consistency is extremely difficult. And so we looked at energy management systems because we knew, dealing with Andre, Carlos Said when he was here, on EMS, that we could get about 13% savings on an EMS. That's how we were quoted, and that's what we were testing. We were getting 13% savings. So on top of that, you took the thermostat off the wall. You got away from a manager who liked it really hot or a manager who liked it really cold. And they kept adjusting it, and then when they went home at night, they didn't turn it off, or they kicked out the program, or somebody got a paper clip in there and got the box unlocked. So on an automated system now, there's no system that a service agent can't disable for you unintentionally. So in this one, you'll read out on the thermostat on the right-hand side is if somebody tries to get into the program, it says you don't have the right to get into this program. Cannot work on it. You have to call this center and talk with N-Touch, and that's the brand that we used for our installs. We can set a variance, and when we first installed this, the first thing I found out from our CEO is don't ever let me hear a manager says they can't adjust the temperature because the customer is complaining. So we give them a couple degrees variance where they can adjust up and down. Then after that, it will reset after a couple hours. So you do control temperature set points for AC units. And it got rid of the ice-ups. It got rid of the really hot summer days when somebody turned it down to 50 degrees and it just wasted energy and had no airflow in the store. So that's completely disappeared. It's reduced our service calls as well. One of the other advantages of the technology now is there's so much remote diagnostics you can do. So when I'm looking into a site in Houston from my chair in Orange County, I can see, in this case, a couple different things. In this one, we had a defrost timer, and on the left one is a walk-in refrigerator. We had a defrost timer that was set for too many defrosts during the day and for too long a defrost. So the box temp would come up, the product temp would be okay, but the box temp would come up and then rapidly drop back down again. And we're just saying, it's just too much of a temperature swing. There's no way to do this unless you had one of your employees tracking and logging this time and looking, and that means you're pulling them off from the customer, you're pulling them away from a back house function. The technology can do that for you. Second thing is we can look at how are our ACs running? Are we controlling them off hours? If you having a store in a location where it's extremely hot overnight, like Vegas, extremely cold overnight, sometimes like Texas, you still have your safety points where nothing's freezing at night, nothing's getting too hot at night. You don't want to walk into a store with no controls and turn on the lights at 8 o'clock and the building's 105 degrees because it got locked up with all that heat in it. So you still can control it over hours. You can see how much your AC is staying on temperature set points, which is really important if you want your customers happy and come back again. And you don't want your employees to quit because it's too hot in their floor. So this is what some of the technology's done for this. This is also originally was a rebated technology, and now most of the rebates on this technology have gone away, but the cost has dropped substantially. So you can do this, if you want to, you can get a very simple system just with controllable stats, just like a Nest thermostat commercially. But you can also do it for light controls, you can do it for temperature monitoring, you can do it, we have it on our hot water heater, we have it on our walk-ins. It's really critically important to have that. One other advantage is you can do a lot of reporting off your equipment. How effective is your equipment? How much runtime are your fans on, your ACs on? So in Title 24 requirements for air balance in the stores, we still use and steal some of the air-conditioned air for exhaust. That's just how it is. You want air movement over the counter. You want that to exhaust all the way out. It's not just the smoke at the hood, but you want air movement across the store. So we keep the fans on all day. Doesn't matter if the compressor is running or not, we want to circulate that air all day. And you can track it. All right, any other equipment that we look at? I'm a big fan of remote, and most of our guys are. If you have remote equipment, you get the compressors out of the restaurant. You know, overhead self-serve ice machines, which are very common now in almost every brand. They can be really noisy, but if you have a compressor in there, it's cycling, you got a lot of heat from it, it's noisy. Why not put that heat load or the compressor, depending on your model, up on the roof and get that heat out of it? It complicates the build a little bit, but in the long run, your equipment lasts a lot longer. You don't have a technician necessarily working on this unit. You could be up on the roof and working on it. It doesn't really impact your customers' dining experience. The other thing is that, the technology center here, they have lighting, they've had restaurants, they've had so much in the way of improvements over the years. We use them for lighting. We did lighting surveys with Edison. That was a great advantage for us. We did refrigerated salsa bars. Originally, our salsa bars were all ice. And then health department requirements used to say if you're high acid food, and tomatoes were high acid food, the temperatures weren't as critical. You could keep it at over 40. It used to be over 41. Eventually, they came in there and said, you know what, for the brand, it's just smarter if we just run refrigeration on it and handle it just like a normal refrigerated product, high acid or not. And then eventually the health department doesn't care about high acid anymore. Now the temperatures have dropped on everything. The other thing is, and you look at the picture in our cook line, so on the back we have a 4-burner range top. We've done all kinds of iterations on hot prep. Pancho, our original founder, did 4-burner range top like this years ago. And then we went to Braun electric kettles. So we did electric kettles for hot prep. We love that. And then we came back full circle and go, you know what, we want to go more traditional, and some of the older style cooks, they like the heavy stock pots, they want to do that. So is this an application for induction over time? Maybe. So that's just, you look at where the technology has changed. Our main cook line are open face char broilers. There's no technology whatsoever on them other than we use stainless burners, and we've redesigned it about 300 times over the years. The grates have been changed, the height has been changed, the size has been changed, and we use Imperial right out of Corona on that equipment, and we've used them for years. As a matter of fact, they've designed the chicken broilers around a Pollo Loco that Pollo Tropical and many chicken chains use nowadays. They came from a Pollo Loco. One of the other things that we do in the newest technology that we did 10 years ago, 12 years ago, because one of these pictures is dated 2007, is that we actually tried combi ovens. And we still have 20 stores that have combi ovens in the back. The very first location that ever tried this was in a Pollo Loco that used to be at Universal Studios. So if anybody went to Universal years back, you would have had all tons of commissary produced chicken for that type of theme park. And so we tested it in the stores, and we decided eventually not to roll it out chain-wide because it did change the profile slightly of our chicken. But it helped staging, it helped holding. It was a totally different cook profile, extremely energy efficient. But you have your options. Come here and test. That's what this place is for. Just get in. If you want to do combis, you can have 5 combis next to each other and compete and see how they run. So if you're an operator, the biggest question is, what do you want to chase? How do you decide what improves in the restaurant? Is it the highest energy user? Is it the slowest producing piece of equipment? Is it something for a new menu mix? Whatever it is, you have to decide, but you can test it. what data you want to choose to collect and analyze. So on the newer technology, almost everything is reportable nowadays, either through an EMS or its own unique technologies reporting on the Wi-Fi and wireless sensors in the restaurants now. And the third thing is, use your judgment. Funny saying is good judgment comes from experience, and a lot of that comes from bad judgment. So you're going to test and fail. This is a great place to go test something, and you may find that kernel information you've never known, but you would never experimented in your own restaurants that way. Come here and test it here. That's the great advantage of this system. What I want to do also is recognize Andre and also our chain account rep at Edison, Cynthia Martin. We worked with both of them for a long amount of time to get us equipment to test, get us slots in the test kitchen, do our tariff reviews, help us with technology, help us with site audits. Now they help us with power outages, since we have plenty of power outages nowadays just for all the work that's being done in the system. But I really want to tell Andre we appreciate both him and Cynthia. It's been great service for our account. Definitely have made our lives a lot easier and kept us more current on the technologies we do want to test and what's out there. Thank you very much.
I just did some simple steamed broccolini, and it's amazing how fast it cooked. I mean, I'm not really used to that thing. It was like 3 minutes, and you want your broccolini like kind of al dente, kind of crunchy, so it's perfect. It's got some pepita pesto and some cotija cheese and some toasted pepitas on top, and the tostada has chorizo refried beans with some chicken tinga and pickled cabbage with a little bit of roasted jalapeno salsa and a sprinkling of Pez powder, of course. Bon appetit.
Thank you, Bret. So we'll go on break, but again, he said Lorer, Mexico, and that was the first time I went fishing down there. You got to drive there, and we took a little topanga out, and we caught a swordfish, and we're like, how do we get this thing back? We drove 3 days, almost 3 days down here, and I want to put it on my wall, and it was like, it's not going to work on it. You're going to have to ice and ice and ice. So took pictures of it, but we cut it up, and we brought it up back to the house, and we smoked some of it, and we barbecued it, but I know exactly where he's talking about. It's a great fishing spot, but prepared. You will catch some good fish and some big fish, and if you want to bring them back, you got to have a plan in place, because we did not have a plan in place, and it was like, nobody's going to believe me, and so I had to take a picture of it, and we ended up cutting it up, and then, icing the meat that we wanted to bring home, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Freeze it.
Yeah.
Bring an ice chest with you on the plane.
Yeah, so we actually drove, so that was the other thing. It was like, man, we got to get back to the board as fast as possible. But great story. All right, we'll get back. How was the food? Good. Yeah, I don't see any. Yeah. Okay. So we'll get back, and now you heard from our customers, and now we're going to speak to the factories, and they ask, well, how did you start the ethnic series, and you hear from customers and things like that. And in Edison, we've got about 32,000 accounts that are food service. Okay, that doesn't include the accounts that are in strip malls or airports that share a meter, or a restaurant in the hotel that share a meter. These are dedicated meters, and out of our chains, they make up anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000. So we've got anywhere from 23 to 25,000 other accounts, like Pepe's and Gloria's and stuff like that, and to really educate them and get a chance with them, a 5-minute speech with them, and really show them that we're here for them, and then also the factories and making that connection between them. So we're glad that we can do that. And so our first factory is from LTI, Low Temp, and he's our Western Region Sales Manager, Tim, and he'll be our first speaker, and he'll talk about the technology, and you guys will get to see it as well. So, Tim?
My name is Tim Braun, and I work for a manufacturer based out of Jonesboro, Georgia, Low Temp Industries, and we deal primarily with serving counters, so counters that you would see in college, university, K-12, business industry, etc. And when I saw Andre at NAFM, we were talking a little bit about some of the induction and some of the exhibition cooking and some of the things that we do that's specific, that we think stands out, that could support you guys in the restaurant field. I know that Juan had mentioned previously about a new menu item, the way they're looking to go into some ceviche, and we've got some products that support flexibility for you guys currently and then down the road. So I'm going to show a little video, kind of stop it every 45 seconds or so to talk about what that is, so that you can see what we have to offer, which I think could be very beneficial. And I apologize for the dramatic music. So this first piece I want to talk about, it's called Tempest Air. It's our cold salad bar, and we have a patent on this setup of it. Basically, we have some fans that circulate cold air underneath that pan. And what that allows you to be able to do is merchandise your food all the way up to the top. So we meet and exceed NSF 7 requirements. Now, obviously, this is a single-sided, sloped, so from a merchandising perspective, all the hard work that you do in the back of the house, to be able to merchandise it, as opposed to having it recessed 3 inches, is a big deal. Obviously, if it's double-sided, it doesn't necessarily have to be a salad bar. But one of the items that we showed at NAFM was basically 2 induction burners right here and a cold rail up front. Now, the cold rail doesn't have to be a traditional full-size pan or even a slim line. We can make it as small as a 6 size, quarter size, night size. So for those of you that are trying to hold salsas, like we mentioned before, and you just needed a small rail because you don't have a lot of space, that's there for you. We can even slope it if you want, so you don't have to worry about keeping it on ice. It'll stay cold the entire time. So in measuring temperature, the food items that are on top will be as cold as the food items on the bottom. So we think that gives you an advantage. It's not worry about, 1, the ice, but 2, the fact that we can make it any size to fit your space, I think is a key feature. And then this is the other one. Sorry, I get the momentum going, then I stop it every time. So this is the other patent that we have that we feel differentiates us as well and gives you some options down the line. So this is our quick switch well. So you notice, once again, you see the food merchandise all the way up to the top, so it's not recessed because we're able to meet and exceed that NSF 7 requirement. But also, each one of those pans can go from hot to cold to even frozen if you need to. They're all individually wrapped. So you think about in the morning, whatever it is that you're serving, the way that you want to hold or merchandise it, the layout of it. We're talking, Juan mentioned earlier about Taco Tuesday. There's the process of hot proteins into cold toppings, into hot sides, into cold something else. Then on Wednesday, you can switch up and do something totally different. So you think about a space requirement, we're kind of in tighter spaces now. You can't have 4 steam table wells, 3 cold wells. You could just have 4 wells and be able to operate those independently. It takes about 40 minutes. Sometimes we don't always see that frozen well necessarily used, but there might be a time where you have a dessert that you want to put into place. And we have this in the counter. So this is at University of Maine, and we did a total redesign for their entire serving area. So everything that you see as far as the technology goes, we can put into a mobile cart. So you don't have to think about it as a huge line or a counter. It can actually be a mobile cart. So it could be 2 wells, 3 wells, depending on your space. So you can think about how you might be able to branch out a little bit more. We think that's great, once again, because from a space perspective, we only need 1 compressor. We're very energy efficient for those 4 wells, so that there's going to be some storage underneath. And because we can customize anything for you, we can pretty much do whatever your space requires. And then this one I want to touch on real quick. So we just updated our new hot wells, so they're different from our quick switch wells, but they're more energy efficient. We've got sensors all the way around those wells to make sure that we have temperature, 550 watts per well, so at a lower output. Another thing that we do well, I think, to support you guys is that the way that our electrical is set up. We're not a traditional 4 hot wells, needs 208, and needs to pull X amount of amps. Based on the space and based on what your needs are, we can configure that electrical to what it is that you need. So it's not a one-stop shop, as far as that goes. Sometimes we move into old spaces that don't have a whole lot, and so you need some support that way. Obviously, new space is fantastic. We'd rather have that, but we don't always get that option. The only other piece that I wanted to talk about real quick, and it was that other quick switch. I talked about that technology that you're able to go from hot to cold. So we have that grab and go piece as well. That was that 2-tier. So if you're in a situation where you need to plate and then have people take, because they've already ordered it, you can actually use both those shelves as hot or cold or ambient, switch them as much as you want. So again, that's a nice feature, and it's not for every situation, but there's an option if you need to be able to plate and get out of there. So I think, Andre had mentioned having some customers come in and asking what their menu was, and they weren't sure yet. The nice thing about some of the technology that we have that can support you is the fact that your menu wants to change. So if we want to have a ceviche bar, we're not tied to having 3 hot wells as what we have. We can actually switch it up and try new menu items. So you're not always stuck with that. Andre? All right. That's my water. We're good? I'm good. Any questions? Getting hungry. And so I actually have that quick switch well back in the kitchen. I think right now we've got them all hot at this point. And we do have the option based on water accessibility is that you can run those wells either wet or dry, which is nice. If you don't have a floor drain and you don't want to have to worry about draining into a bucket, you don't need to. And there's no impact at all on the performance whatsoever.
All right, moving right ahead. Our next one is from Vulcan, and she's our business development manager from Vulcan and ITW, Stacy, and she'll be talking and also talking about the equipment that she'll be demonstrating as well. So let's welcome Stacy.
Really for us, we are full, basically. So we do heavy-duty, full cooking equipment, right? All hot. Now, we are part of a larger family, the ITW group. If you're familiar with Illinois Tool Group, they actually are Hobart, Charleston, Gaylord. We're the hot side, Vulcan and Wolf, okay? And really for us, the majority of our business, probably almost 80% is gas, okay? But we do focus on electric as well. Obviously, where we see mostly electric are airport-type locations, some historic buildings. C-store. The C-store groups are phenomenal as far as electric, as far as where most of our sales go. So keep that in mind. What I really enjoyed about the guest speakers so far, one was Bret when he mentioned our convection ovens, and then also Dan when he talked about the hoods, Juan when he talked about cooking without fire. Those are all interesting parts, okay? So for the hood portion, for Dan, trust me, his hood that he uses today is a lot more expensive than the hood he used to use, right? When Bret mentioned the convection ovens, he actually was mentioning combi ovens, excuse me. The combi oven's much more expensive than a standard convection oven. So why are they using them? Because all the other benefits that come from those pieces. In a convection oven, you can eliminate your steamer, right? Or you can eliminate a convection oven because you're using both in one cavity. Those things are important. And as we basically go through some different product segments, I just want to explain why that is. In our industry, labor is a huge issue, probably the biggest. Footprint is another piece that is affecting whether you're the mom and pop or the large national accounts, okay? And so what we're trying to do as Vulcan is we understand that good, better, best strategy. So we get that there are mom and pops that maybe can't go out and put the biggest technology in their kitchen right off the bat. You know, once they get up to 100 locations, sure, they've probably figured that out, but in the beginning they haven't. So really as a company, we do have a good, better, best strategy. We have lower cost, value type equipment that it has good quality materials used in it and some technology, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you might find in some of the higher technology type pieces that are used by some of the larger chains that are out there. And so remember that, just because you see the name Vulcan, it doesn't mean we're the highest or the lowest. We literally have a good, better, best strategy and everything in between. One of the pieces we're going to focus on today is on our fryers, right? This was a very similar graph that was used by Andre, and you'll see basically where it talks about fries being placed in the oil, fries being removed, and then basically when it's recovered. When it comes to fryers, okay, on whether it's gas or electric, it's all about recovery. If you've ever sat there and you had a plate in front of you and you saw oil on the wax paper or, you know, on the plate, that's because somebody's using a non-efficient fryer, typically, or the fryer has not recovered. Why I say that is typically on a fryer, you want to crisp up the outside and it stops the oil from penetrating the inside of the product. When your fry guy, let's say he's using a non-efficient fryer, they both start off at 350, right? So they've dropped the product, okay? Yeah, the more efficient one, it does cook a minute faster if you look at this grid. But also what happens is it's ready to go for the next batch. Your fry guy doesn't know, hey, this isn't back up to 350. I should wait a few minutes before I drop my next load of product. They're just gonna load that next load right away, right? So keep that in mind. When you get into the more efficient fryers, you don't have that issue. You eliminate that problem from your operation. And that's where a lot of groups really understand that. Okay, so if you get into like the McDonald's, let's say, of the world, they get that. They use a very efficient fryer. They eliminate that labor headache from their operation and get it. So when we talk about electric fryers versus gas, okay, this is what a standard electric fryer looks like. Electric fryers are very simple in the aspect of there's a ribbon element, right? There's a thermostat, there's a tank, essentially, okay? If you want an efficient gas fryer, it's standardly known as 50% efficient. I love to use the analogy of what does that mean for me? Okay, I'm the restaurant owner. That means if I pull my imaginary fryer up to a gas pump and I put $1 worth of gas, in theory, into my fryer, 50 cents of that dollar, okay, so 50 cents of what I'm spending on gas is actually going into the cooking process and into the food. The other 50% is going directly out of the flue. It's basically wasted energy. Now, when you get into electric fryers, they are much, much, much more efficient than gas. They're typically in the 80%. So 80 cents of that dollar I'm putting into my electricity, into that fryer, is going into the cooking process. There is no flue on an electric fryer. So what does that mean? You do not have that heat being dumped into your kitchen environment. And this is a perfect example. Oh, sorry, it's supposed to be here. Give me one sec here. The slides got moved around on me apparently. And it's not on here. I apologize. So typically in a gas fryer, you basically have a burner, right? Then you have a tube, and then it goes directly out of the flue. On the back of every gas fryer, if it's a standard tube fryer, you have about 1,200 degree heat being dumped into your kitchen environment. So one of the accounts I'm going to talk about, which is Captain D's, they have anywhere from 14 to 15 feet of fryers in their kitchen, right? It's kind of like a fish and chips kind of place. Or think of all the wing places that are out there that use a very large amount of fryers. That's a lot of heat going into your kitchen environment. When you use an electric fryer, you don't have that, okay? So keep that in mind. We started a project with a group called Captain D's. If you're not familiar with Captain D's, might remind you a little bit of Long John Silver's. Okay, heavy fish and chips, French fries, very, very fast food, and kind of passing over to the fast casual type environment. They do have over 500 locations. This is not a small chain by any means. The buyer, his name's Larry Jones, on the operations side, and he came to us and a few other manufacturers and said, listen, I was with Cracker Barrel for 20 years, okay? And I really want to simplify my operations. And at Cracker Barrel, he put refrigerated bases under their griddles. So they're no longer using wasted space under their hoods. okay? Used to be an equipment stand, or maybe it's on casters. He wanted refrigerated bases under his griddles. So he did that. It was a huge savings. And then they didn't have the operations issues of running back and forth to your refrigeration or your freezer, or in most kitchens, you're doing this all day long, right? You just turn around, back and forth, back and forth. So what he did is he said, I want to do the same thing on fryers. Will you join me on this adventure, basically? We're the ones who eventually won the business. He used gas tube fryers prior to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. What we found, though, as we went through this project was electric made more sense. From his standpoint, he said, you know what? I need to filter my oil. I understand oil is the most expensive thing when it comes to a fryer. It's something I have to buy every week, right? You actually degrade your oil less by using electric versus gas because of the efficiency. You're never scorching that oil the same way a burner might. And so he saw some oil savings there, but then he said, okay, I see ventilation load savings too, right? Because I'm not dumping all that heat into my kitchen. And then we got into the operational side where he's not going back and forth. But what you found is he's still filtering his oil, once or twice a day. At that time, it was twice a day. But he's loading food every 4 minutes. So what's better use of the space underneath that fryer? So what we introduced is what is right behind me is the first Energy Star electric countertop fryer. And I shouldn't say first, it's the only at this time. I don't know what's happened in the last 20 years, but this is the only countertop Energy Star fryer in the market. And we developed it for them. We have it in a 40-pound and a 75-pound. When I say 40 pounds, it's a little bit different than gas because there is a cold zone underneath the elements, but it's very minimal. So it actually uses less oil when you pour it in. However, the baskets are the same size as what you guys use on a 50-pound gas fryer. So keep that in mind, okay? It just uses a little bit less oil due to its construction. So typically on fryers, that's where groups, they really don't think of electric as much as they do gas. But all the energy savings, this is the little story that was in the What's Hot, What's Cool at NAFM, which is the big National Association of Food Service Operators. And this is the 30% reduction in cook times. Now you might ask, why is that? It's because the elements are immersed in the oil at all times. That's why it's so efficient. So it cooks that much faster. So he was able to take that much time out of every check. Where he really noticed it is when you're cooking to order, is seeing that speed that he was extremely happy about. Now the $10,000 in operational costs, that always gets everyone. They're saying $10,000, wait a minute, that's a huge amount of money. A lot of the utilities in certain areas will work with him on special rebates from switching from gas to electric, which was really interesting. They're primarily in the Midwest, so not as energy conscious as I would say out here is. And they were still able to negotiate from a chain perspective some utility rebates above and beyond what the standard rebates are. So keep that in mind. They found they served a better fried food. It was actually crispier. From their culinary team, they actually found a better product as far as the actual quality. So keep that in mind as well. And then the reduced fry times was one of the biggest ones, obviously. This is a picture of what one of their kitchens looked like. So typically they used to have 2 different hood systems. A lot of them they were able to condense down to 1. They typically have anywhere from 7 to 15 feet of fryers. So they do some serious frying. They do some that are hand battered, some that are frozen, but they actually have the refrigerated and freezer bases underneath their fryers so they can just grab the product that's below and then load above. So keep that in mind. Again, it's not for everyone. Where we've started to see a lot of push with this is institutional type cooking, food stations, universities. We have a lot of chains that are testing it, but it's only been out for a few years, so it's not something that's, that is everywhere yet. We're currently in that phase of it. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as other technology, I'm the griddle, charbroiler, and fryer expert for Vulcan. One of the things I always like to point out when we're talking about electric is a technology that we have. It's proprietary to us, which is what's called a rapid recovery plate. It is an aluminum core plate. Instead of typically on griddles, you see steel plates, right? This is an aluminum core and a stainless steel outer. So basically what it has is it has the ability to transfer heat 5 times faster than a standard steel plate. I'll show you a little sample of that when we're in the kitchen and just show you what that technology looks like. But basically, it's something that can be applied to an electric griddle, and what it means is extremely even heating across the griddle plate in comparison to what you see in a traditional carbon steel plate. So just know that that's out there. Any questions? Go ahead.
When they ask you to make a product for them, do they promise to put it in 500 stores?
Good question. So we believe in customer-backed innovation at Vulcan. I mean, ultimately, if it works for one of the larger guys, it's going to trickle down to where we can use it, whether it's a mom and pop and technology we can use in the rest of the marketplace. There are groups out there that ask for proprietary. That's where typically they fund it a little bit more so. But typically, if it's not something they're asking to be proprietary, it's got to make sense for everyone involved. So we have to get behind it. One of the things with Captain D's that we really liked is we'd actually done projects with Larry in the past. So we knew what kind of partner was coming to the table. He was extremely open. Every part of the process was vented openly to where we knew we weren't going up against a competitor and one of us was going to get all the business and one of us wasn't, because we have limited resources like everybody else, right, when it comes to engineering. So we do look for valued partners to do that sort of thing. We knew going into this that if we could solve the problem of being able to use a refrigerator or freezer base on the bottom, you know, that would be a win for other avenues as well. So that's something that obviously a higher pay grade than me as far as the decision that was made. But we do look for chain partnerships like that to get behind our products.
And then when they don't have the proprietary part of it, then you guys can sell it to anybody else?
Right, correct. And this is available in our pricing catalog. We vetted it through their system after a year or two, and that's when we introduced it to the market. So they've actually had it, I'm going to say, about 3 years. And then we just introduced it really like at NAFM this past February.
How soon did they switch over all the stores?
Good question. So obviously with 500 stores, that would be an insane amount of money to switch every store over. So every new store obviously has this, and then they look at replacement type business. Now what's really interesting about a fry system like this is, so let's say you have 7 fryers all next to each other. One goes down, you just simply take that, it's almost like a Lego, right? You just take that piece out and put another one in. It's not like when you have a bank of fryers and you're constantly repairing. You kind of have that ideology of, oh, I can replace it. How much money do I want to spend on repairing something? And the one part that you'll see when we actually see the fryer over in the kitchen that I really left out is cleanability on an electric fryer versus a gas fryer is like a dream. Literally, you take the elements, they swing up, and there's just a big open tub, right? An open cavity to clean. So typically on your fryers, if we're all familiar with using a wire brush or also I've seen it all. I've seen where they say, who in the kitchen has the smallest hands? Well, you're gonna clean the fryer because you can get down between the tubes. You don't have that with this. So you do have labor savings there as well. That was one of the things that when we actually were going through the process and switching over to electric, it was something unexpected, just from the cleanability standpoint. Yes, sir.
The question I have on a tabletop like that is, how can you handle footprint filtration? Are you plumbing it off?
So, good question. So where we're at with this group, and we've had some people contact us about using a reclamation type system is kind of the question. So on a lot of standard gas fryers, and especially the larger groups, they will hook up a reclamation. If you're familiar, it's basically a lack of a better term, a tubing system that you hook up, and it's an automated system that will take it outside of your building, or at least to a second a place, basically, to dump the oil. And then there's groups that will actually pick up the oil from there, or you can actually just take it to like a fryer trap, basically, right? So with this unit, they actually use a fryer caddy. You'll see there's something called a gooseneck pipe, is what I call it, where it's a large pipe that drains from the system. You basically hook it up right on the front. It'll go directly into the caddy. One of the things that was really interesting that Larry found too was he could go from filtering twice a day to once a day because the oil degradation and basically within his system was that much less from using electric versus gas. which was surprising. So he still filters every day, but he actually did go from twice a day to once a day with this fryer. But it's a separate caddy. And currently, we do not have the reclamation hookup for it. But not to say with the right partner, we wouldn't do that. It's really not that complex. I want to say a reclamation outlet on a fryer, you're usually talking maybe $500. So again, it's looking at the big picture when you look at fryers. Yes, you can go out and buy a $1,000 gas fryer a lot cheaper than you can buy this type unit. You know, but if you look at the big picture and over time and the savings that way, it's a very interesting story. And like I said, a lot of people are getting on board. But this is the only one that does qualify for the Energy Star rebate.
Thank you. All right, so our final speaker of the day, and thank you, this is the 7th, so 4 customers and 3 factories, and thank you guys for staying with us. Is from Cooktek and Turbo Chef. It's Jason Prantil, who's the Vice President of Regional California. That'll be focusing on the induction technology, really explaining how it works and the technology behind it. So with that, I'd like to bring up Jason.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
You can click there or you can click there. Either one.
I won't be very long, but I only have about 40 slides. It'll be okay. We'll get through it, okay? So if anything is a repeat, or if you guys have any questions on some of this stuff, let me know, and I'll stop and I'll try to explain it the best I can. Okay, so we're gonna talk about induction and how some of the trends that we're seeing, you know, we're going into electrification and decarbonization, and how electric and more importantly, how induction has some potential for helping some food service. So we'll talk about what's happening with induction. Is everybody familiar with induction cooking? And okay, not everybody speak at once, please. So we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah,
what we're showing you here is we're going to talk about a little bit about what's happening, some of the principles. It's been around for a while. You know, you introduce some a current as far as, you know, put a voltage into a circuit, and it creates a flux, and then we create a change in magnetic fields, which when you put it into a closed circuit, you'll generate changing magnetic fields. So with the AC current, that's the most popular way. That's obviously the way that was the leading charge. Anyways, we'll move forward. This is kind of confusing because I'm not an engineer, I'm more of a chef, but we'll get into a little bit more as application. So this, as far as mechanisms go, by putting energy into a transformer, we could create a magnetic field, and using a pan that has ferrous properties will create heat. So that's kind of the mechanism of induction heating. So where does the heat come from? So you have 2 different mechanisms. You have resistive heating, which we see in you know, cal rods and traditional electric cooking or electric heating elements.
Michael, everything good? Okay.
And then you have magnetic acidic loss. Now with that you have this is where you need a magnetic material. It's a ferromagnetic material, and you create these fields where you have the north and south. So
Okay.
the material actually is aligned, and as you put current in there, they bounce back and forth.
Let me
have a loss, and with that loss, you create the heat. So that's where the heat is coming from the actual energy loss from the current being pumped into the magnetic material. So that, with that being said, some of the things that you're going to need to know about induction, you have to have a specific type of material for it to work efficiently, to have the best hysteric loss. The best way to do that is get a magnet. If it sticks to your pan, you're going to have a pretty good chance that it's going to have induction property. Aluminum doesn't necessarily work very well. You can make it work, but then you have to go into changing the actual magnetic field, which can be dangerous. I mean, if you have to put so much frequency in there that the actual pan will repel the actual cooking in it, so it's a little bit dangerous. So we, in practical senses, I mean, there are some manufacturers that are exploring that, but typically we find that it's a lot more efficient to go with a lower, something that has more ferrous material or more ferrous properties. And then there's other practical heatable materials. So for holding warm, if you see some of those pans that are induction ready, where you have like a little base, and that will have the it'll have like a plate that will absorb it will absorb the well, it's got a ferrous material, like usually it's like copper, or it'll have cast. It'll be like a plate that'll be stuck to the bottom of, like little plate warmers, or you'll have them in healthcare, where you have them, heating the little plates that you charge them up so that you can put them out to room service. So you see a couple different examples of those down there. So, like I said, this technology's been around for a while. The challenge with it in the past was it was really expensive making these vacuum tubes, or you had these massive water cooling systems to keep them, that current from overwhelming the actual materials. So with the introduction of Silicon Valley and the IGBT, which is insulated gate bipolar transistor, made it really inexpensive to control and convert the high frequencies. So you can kind of see a little, there's like a little example down there. It shows you power comes in with the control and the IGBT. You can actually have a lot easier control by creating a nice magnetic field in the coil. All right, so I can show you a little bit how our units are made. We got the control processor, we have the inverter, and that's typically in the same housing as our coil. So everything is nice and compact. So basically, the inverter pulls the energy, puts it at a high frequency, creates a magnetic field, and once you put the ferrous material in that magnetic field, that's where you create heat. And as you add more energy, it changes the polarity in the material, which will create heat. The loss of that energy goes into translates to heat. So seems simple, but I don't know what the but's about. But anyways, so here's some of the challenges we find that with induction, why hasn't it become more of a popular thing? Typically, you see a lot of these very inexpensive 120 volt products out there that will claim it's induction, but the challenge is they don't really hold up. The quality isn't quite there. So we have something, you can see anything from a little countertop hob that's 3,000 watt down to a 120 volt 1,800 watt, and the price range on those can be anywhere from $80 up to $700. And you have a wide range of the product actually working. And then the other thing is we have some issues with what's available out there as far as functionality. So right now, currently, we have typically just holding and some just basic cooking. So I still think it's in its infantile stage. So we're going to see a lot more induction. It's just there hasn't been a lot of creative uses for it at the moment. But we do have some advantages for this technology to start taking some lead in some of these food service areas, because with cost of energy going up, and with we're trying to get away from using any kind of emissions in kitchens, you're going to start seeing a lot more people looking to put in solutions to address those things. And I think induction has a lot of opportunity to make some of those things work. So we're going to talk about some of the advantages. Obviously, with power, you're going to get a lot of efficiencies versus traditional electric cooking or gas cooking. So you can give an example there. Depending on what type of pan you're using and what type of induction range you're using, if you go up to anything over 3,000 watts, you're going to see a lot of performance. Anything under that, those are going to be best suited for holding, not necessarily cooking. Efficiencies, obviously, it comes back down to what type of pan am I using. If I have a pan that has some good ferrous properties, I'll get a good efficiency. So if I spend money on a nice if I spend money on a nice induction range, but then I have a pan that isn't efficient, you're gonna lose some efficiency, so it's important to spec the right pan. Precision, you could really dial in, so if I'm making a cream soup, or if I'm doing a stock overnight, I could set a certain temperature based on current rate going in, and pretty much walk away. It'll stay at that level, real nice and precise. Since the energy is going directly in the pan, I'm not putting any energy into the environment, so there's no heat going into the kitchen. So it keeps the kitchen down. All energy is going into the food. And goes back to the efficiency. We give you some rough estimates there on how we compare versus gas and traditional electric. And that's really based on what type of material, what types of pans you're using, and what type of cooking hobs you're using. Going back into green, obviously keeping all the energy that you're using is going into the pan, so we're trying to turn all the energy into heat, so we're not losing any heat into the environment or into the kitchen or into another medium. And obviously with safety, I don't have a lit flame, so I don't have to worry about people burning themselves. You don't have to worry about if a pilot's off and gas going into your kitchen. So there's definitely some safety advantages. Speed, again, depending on what type of pan you're using, you're going to have a lot of efficiency on speed. Things heat up really quick with the right type of hob and type of pan that you're using. Again, going back to control, you have quick, you can turn on a range and the thing is ready to go within seconds, so you don't have to wait for any kind of preheat. And obviously with precision, it's very predictable. As you load in energy into the pan, into the magnetic field, that translates into heat, so it's very easy to be precise on cooking. I got a little image here on how you see a little bit of efficiency loss using a gas range versus an induction range. So you have a little bit of heat going around the pan and up into the environment, whereas the energy in the induction pan is going directly into the pan, therefore going into the food. So we have a lot of energy efficiencies there. Some of the limitations we have, it comes back to pans. The pans is the biggest limitation we have. We have these quote-unquote induction pans, and if a magnet doesn't stick to it, that typically is a telltale sign that you're gonna have a challenge. Sometimes you have challenges where they're actually creating noise in the pan. So that's typically where you have the biggest challenge. The other challenge is if somebody's used to a gas range and they go to induction, they're gonna have getting them used to using something where they can viscerally see heat and feel the heat to something you don't see the heat and you don't feel the heat. There's a little bit of a learning curve there. And then there's also acquisition costs. It's gonna be obviously different costs involved with getting induction over traditional cooking. And then you obviously need to have the proper power supply. So typically, the way to translate, if I have a 35,000 BTU burner kitchen, a range that I'm trying to emulate, the best translation from 35,000 BTU gas burner to induction, you would want something in the range of a 3,000 watt unit. So if I have limited to only 120 volts, then we're pretty much capped at 1,800 watts. So that's about half of 3,000 watts, which if I were to turn up my gas range and I can only go halfway up, that would be like using an 1,800 watt burner. So we'd want, if you have the opportunity to use induction, definitely have the proper amount of power so that you can get the most efficiency out of it. So obviously we talked about the different voltage. I typically would go with anything over 3,000 watt. If I'm holding, it's not gonna be a problem. Anything under 1,000 watt or 1,800 watts is fine for holding. All right, so some of the things that we wanna do as a manufacturer, we've been doing this for a while. We're the only ones in North America that actually is made in North America. We've been supplying for the world. We're in 80 different countries. We were acquired back in 2009 with the Middleby Company. With that, there was some opportunity to be aligned with the Turbo Chef, where we have a lot of engineers and a good amount of resources focused into making a wider variety of induction pieces of equipment. Here's the product line we currently have at the moment. We have 4 different categories. We have our cooking and holding, and our cooking units, we have countertops. We have heavy duty. We're gonna see some heavy duty stuff today. The warming and holding, we see a lot of trends going towards away from traditional wells where you need a water line. And we're looking at solutions to have dry wells. The induction fits the bill well there. So we're having some really good success there. And another trend we're seeing a lot of is delivery. How do we utilize this technology for delivery? Typically, getting away from sternos, getting away from electric, plug-in heating vessels. You could go wireless and still have the nice holding. All right, so some of the challenges we run into are some of the myths. Myth number 1 is induction like microwaving. Does it cook food as well as gas or electric, or you can't get a good sear? And it comes down to, well, the challenge is if you are limited to 120 volts and you only have 1800 watts, 1800 watts will create only so much heat into the pan. So again, that goes back to how high do you want to turn on your gas range? If I turn my gas range all the way up at 30,000 BTUs, we're going to need something that's going to be equivalent to that. So you want to have a 3,000 watt induction burner to emulate that. Otherwise, you're going to have some challenges. So there's a big challenge with people having perspective of being stuck with the lower wattage burners, and so that's just a little bit of getting people to see the units. And we have facilities like this one where you can come in and test products and see for yourselves. There's a little myth on, do you have to spend a lot of money on special pans? Well, the best pans that are out there, your traditional cast iron pans. There's a lot of, we sell woks, induction wok ranges, and the old cast iron or carbon steel woks work fantastic. Again, if a magnet sticks to it, you're gonna be all right. So you can spend a lot of money, and a lot of times some of those expensive pans don't actually work very good. So just get a cheap little magnet. The better the magnet sticks, the better chance you're gonna have a good efficient pan. Now, this one's a little bit tricky. Yeah, I've heard of this a few times. Well, is this gonna damage somebody? Is somebody gonna be affected by being in the magnetic wave? Now, unless you have a pacemaker, you're not gonna have any problems. There is a challenge of having a problem if you have a pacemaker and you're near an induction unit because of the magnetic wave and the interference with your pacemaker. So there is a little bit of truth to that. But typically, if you have a pacemaker, you're probably not gonna be cooking. But I don't know what kind of talent we're hiring nowadays, so we'll see. All right, so the other one is the glass top. Typically, people are worried that, okay, I got this glass top, it's gonna break. Let me see if I can get this to go. I can't do it. Well, anyways, we got a video of the bowling ball drop from 5 feet up onto our glass pans, and they don't break. It's like a Pyrex, many layers glass, so it's pretty unbreakable. There is a challenge, though. We have a solution for it, but in some manufacturers, if you don't have a heat relay in there, and you dry burn a glass top induction range, the glass will break. So if you put a pan on a glass induction range or induction hob and you turn it on, there's no food in it. Our units actually have a relay in there that can sense that, okay, it's a dry burn, and it'll turn itself off. But if you don't have that relay in there, the glass will actually crack. So we have we've ran into that problem years ago and we fixed it. So I think that does it for us. Anybody have any questions? So Stacy's gonna be next door. We've got a few of the ranges over there, so we're gonna be showing some of our units over, cooking some carnitas and kinds of stuff. Thank you very much.
A lot of great comments and just things that were said, so we get to see this stuff live now. A couple things before we close up. It's not a Ninja Star, it's not a cell phone holder, it's a trivet. And there's a few left, some of you guys already got it, but you can put your hot pan or comal on it, after you bring it out and then you put it on there. And it will hold the heat. We've tested it a lot. And so, as Jason was saying, if you take one of these magnet homes, this is the way to test. And if it sticks, it's induction compatible already and things like that. So if I got this hot, I can put it on there and it'd be safe and sound. So not a Ninja Star, not a cell phone holder, not a selfie stick or anything like that. It's a trivet. It's a trivet. A couple other things just to take home with you. There's some literature back there. There's a calendar. Definitely look on the calendar. Let's see. Down in Will's shop, where are we in? We're May already, right? So May 8th, Will has got one next week, next Wednesday actually. Look for that seminar next week at the gas company down the 605. Then there's at the end of May as well, remodels of do's and don'ts. And in between that, we have the National Restaurant Show. So we like to go as a team and bring back the technology that we've seen. So as some of our factories mentioned, I was out there in February making contact. Oh, this is the kind of a seminars we're having up and we like to have you here. So, and if you really want to take one home today, there is the induction seat Gwen. She'll make you fill out the proper, the forms, and there's some pots and pans, or you can take one of each back. Bring it back. That's why we need your service bill. We don't check your credit history or anything like that. It's just, it's just to keep you guys honest, keep everybody honest out there and bring it back. With that, let's give another hand to our guest speakers. Our factories that are here and our vendors here. We're gonna head over, so do take all your material and your things. We are gonna head over. We will not be coming back here, so.
I just wanted to say about what I.
Right, the raffle.
Two certificates. Is anyone thinking about being a wholesale manufacturing company, or do you know a manufacturing company that may benefit from what we're doing? I know I've had like a very few people come to me, but if you don't mind, Andre, we're a nonprofit for 23 years, and we represent wholesale food manufacturing companies. We also have associates, supporting members, and all students here. And we are having a mutual respect forum here on May 30th. And we're going to have all the state, local, and federal governments attend and do presentations and question panels and all kinds of stuff. So if you know someone, please don't miss out. And if you are here today and you know someone, you can send me an email. Let me know. I would be happy, besides the raffle people today, whoever came up to me, please come back up to me again. I will be happy to extend you the discount for the members, and all it covers is the breakfast and the lunch. That's all. It's not an expensive event to come to. And we are a nonprofit, so we do have to cover our costs. But that's it. Okay? So please do take a time. And also, Mr. William Thomas Huntley here is our preventative controls for qualified individuals, PCQI training. He's going to be doing that the Saturday starting. It's going to be Saturday classes. And this is what, if you make, I think, how much is the class? How much, if you make a certain amount of money within 1 year as a wholesaler, you do have there's a lot of companies that do have to have PCQI. Okay, so if you have any questions, please come get my card, get my one-pager. I'm happy to answer questions. You can call me back. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Please pass the word on because it's very important. Okay, and what we charge, like for the PCQI class, people charge twice as much, like over $1,000 to take this class. Okay, so I do hope that someone will benefit.
Thank you, Helene. And then it is.
Dealing with our roundtable that we're having with the federal government, the state of California, and several other branches, it's something that restaurateurs need to start paying attention to. Do you really think that the Food Safety and Modernization Act to protect the public is only going to be for food plants, the guys that are supplying you? Ain't the case. Counties are only doing part of the job. you're gonna start seeing that the federal government is gonna start writing regulations that are going to cover supermarket chains, restaurants. These things are things that all restaurateurs need to have somebody pay attention to and start listening to the regulatory folks, because ultimately, you're gonna get hung out to dry because they don't do a lot of telling you about it until after the fact. Then they say, oh, by the way.
Yeah, and they will close you down. And we're not a fly-by-night agency. We've been around since the LA riots. We've been around for 23 years in October. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, thank you to our vendors. Thank you for participating, building those relationships. So again, take all of your materials and your personal belongings. We're gonna walk across the street in a safely fashion and taste the product. I encourage you to talk to the factories. We'll be able to demonstrate the product right in front of you with them. And again, thank you guys.